London 2012 Olympics. All the athletes are here in East London. It's all about football, tennis, basketball, decathlons, pentathlons, and also surface-to-air missiles on your rooftop. This footage of a British Army contingent on the rooftop of Fredwig Tower in Leytonstone, East London. And we can see they have a radar system on top, SAM missiles, and they're also the complete 16th floor of the building has been commandeered by the Armed Forces or the Ministry of Defense. And we're going to have a closer look at that right now.
There doesn't really seem to be much security. The police van that was initially here has gone. There's no one actually looking after the adjacent tower, which strikes me as odd because I assume that if you're on the top of the other tower you have a kind of direct line to that tower. So we were told by a resident in the John Walsh Tower that the only thing that they've done is just put a lock on the top flats there, blocking the access to the roof. So yeah, I think there's 2 men on the roof there. Whether those missiles are real or not, we don't know. The MOD said that the missiles left outside Lexington Tower were dummy missiles, which also strikes me as odd, because if they're dummy, well, why would they use them or need them, or why would there be this whole fiasco?
On the 27th of April this year, the residents of this very ordinary block of flats received a leaflet through their door one Friday afternoon to say that the Ministry of Defence would be installing a ground-to-air missile system on their roofs. Obviously they were very concerned about that. The Ministry of Defence invited them to a show and tell at a local primary school the following Wednesday, where they put on a display of the ground-to-air missiles they were going to put on the roofs. The residents went there and were incredibly concerned, obviously. Any private person would be deeply concerned if their home was to be militarised and become a forward operating base for the military. Unfortunately, the Ministry of Defence didn't ask their permission and did not consult them about the missiles. They also failed to offer them any form of redress, for example, to provide alternative accommodation for those people who are most afraid of having the missile system on their roof. The residents went to their local Member of Parliament, who contacted us and asked us if we could represent those people. We met with them and we heard their fears, and they were the normal fears that any person would have. Their fears were exacerbated actually by the fact that their block of flats had almost burnt to the ground just 6 months previously, and they had been evacuated in the dead of night amongst billowing smoke, elderly, disabled people, children. So you can certainly understand their additional concerns that they were now to have a high-powered ground-to-air missile base on their roof.
We've got 2 members of the army upstairs looking directly at us. No one's really willing to speak on camera about how they feel, although a lot of people have told us off record that, you know, this is a residential area, not a war zone, so people are understandably angry about it. We are being watched as we speak. Actually, there's a pair of binoculars looking directly at us on the 16th floor. Yes, we're hopefully going to try and speak to some people, but everyone we've spoken to is just worried, obviously, about being evicted after the Brian Whelan case, where he went publicly on camera and he filmed the missiles being unattended, and he was promptly evicted from his flat in Bow. So obviously people here are worried the same things will happen to them. So what are your feelings about the rockets and missiles on top of the Fredwig Tower that's just, 20 metres away from your doorstep?
Oh, I think personally it's very dangerous, you know what I'm saying? Because I really think that there's no need for this, really, you know what I'm saying? Because I understand it's for security reasons, but not to this level, if you understand what I mean. Because the children living there, you know, and it's not very pleasant knowing that you're going to sleep and there's a bomb on top of your house. You know, accidents do happen. So I think, to me, it's very dangerous.
Kind of an odd feeling.
Okay. I didn't find out until, I think I heard it on the news, ITV3.
Right.
That's when I saw the flat and I said, nah, they can't be putting bombs on a flat.
Alternatively, they could have built a gantry behind the block of flats on the huge area of parkland that exists there. The Ministry of Defence had established missile bases in a number of parks across London. If they could do it there, Why not at this park rather than on their roofs?
This is basically a landmark ruling that suggests that any home in this country could be turned into a military base.
Yes, well, it doesn't suggest, it is.
It is.
It has been confirmed that the Ministry of Defence now have this extraordinary new power that they have never had before. We have never had the militarisation of private residences in the United Kingdom except in wartime. The Ministry of Defence submitted and the court accepted that they do have the right to militarise your home, to put a tank on your lawn or troops in your front sitting room or a ground-to-air missile base on your roof without asking, without consulting, just so long as they say that national security is engaged.
David Forsdick, who appeared on behalf of the MOD, said, quote, "The MOD, intelligence agencies and the Metropolitan Police do not consider there is any credible threat to the Fred Wigg Tower from terrorism." Now, did that statement strike you as odd when he said that?
Well, yes, it did, actually. The fact of the matter is that during the course of the case, the Ministry of Defence made it absolutely clear that they would be providing no perimeter security at all.
It's the building that has the surface-to-air missiles on the roof. You don't know, really. The one that's been in the news.
We don't know.
That said Fred Wigg Tower in the news.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Do you know?
So the rest of the country knows, but you don't know.
You don't know?
No, I do know.
Oh, right, you was asking me. I don't need to tell you that.
There's no law against talking to the residents.
Yeah, but if you do go inside, you'll be trespassing. If someone wants to come and take you upstairs...
I'm a member of the press. We're doing this in full and open public view. There's nothing to hide.
Yeah, that's what you can do outside here then. You know what I mean?
So you don't mind if we speak to residents?
No, we don't mind outside.
Outside the building?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
that's fine, absolutely.
But if I go in there, what are you going to do? You're going to call the police, or you're going to tackle me or beat me up? Under whose authority? The council's or the police?
Yeah, you do that. When they come...
It's a bit of a legal gray area. I don't think there's anything that can actually keep me from going in the building and talking to residents. I think you
But
just
do you live there in the building?
I don't.
So then why do you want to go inside?
Because I'm a resident of London. I can go into any borough I want.
No,
and I
no,
can
no,
speak
no,
to
no,
any
no, no,
citizen
no, no.
I want about a public matter.
No. But you're trespassing. If you go in somewhere and you don't live there, so...
Knocking on
trespassing.
knocking on the door is
Yeah,
not
but that's what I'm saying. When someone comes out, you can talk to them. You can communicate with them.
It's not trespassing. This is a commons area. Each of these are individual properties, either leased or owned via the council. So the building itself is not.
If you go to
it's not private property.
www.ashamhomes.co.uk, there is a number of Asham Homes. You can contact them and make an appointment, and you can do it the official way. Okay, that's the best. Obviously, best I can say to you. But we've told you what the score is now. Now it's up to you if you want to follow that or you don't want to follow that. That's entirely your decision.
Well, I'm gonna respect what you said.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you that the majority of residents in this building did not want that so badly that they took the MOD to court. Okay, and you guys are running cover for somebody who you don't even know. Okay, we still live in a free country, right?
Just.
Unless someone's paying you to do a job, then I guess you have a different angle on it, and I respect that. But this is still a free country, and there's still a free press.
So we had problems getting into the Fred Wigg Tower, but we're now on the adjacent tower, which is the John Walsh Tower, and we're on the 9th floor, and we've got a clear view of the roof. Obviously we can't see what's on it, but we can actually see the Fred Wigg Tower here.
The residents of Fred Wigg Tower are very ordinary people. Many of them are on benefits, they're unemployed. Some have very limited use of English. They are not at the top end of society. And they are very fearful about the consequences to them of speaking out. A number have said to me that they are afraid to go on camera to voice their concerns because they are afraid that they will be evicted. But you have referred to Mr. Whelan, who has lost his home, and they have those genuine fears, whether or not they are real or imagined.
My name is Brian Whelan. I'm a journalist who was living in Bow Quarter up until last Saturday, when unfortunately I've had my tenancy terminated for speaking out in the press about this missile plan, so I've had to move home. From the moment that I found out about this plan via a leaflet pushed under the door late at night, I've had questions. I've had a lot of questions for the MOD. We're 2 months down the line and the MOD have still failed to answer any of them. The first thing is, why didn't you consult with anyone who lives in these buildings? Why didn't you consult with anyone who lives in the community? Who did you speak to? Why did you think this was okay?
This might be the thin end of the wedge, whereby the government sets a precedent and then the powers only grow from here.
Well, I wouldn't describe it as the thin end of the wedge. I describe it as the thick end of the wedge. There has been a complete change as a result of this case in British society. We now have on record the fact that the Ministry of Defence has a new power, and that is to militarise any private home without asking permission, without consulting, simply on the basis that they consider that national security is engaged. Now, how is that judged? Is national security engaged? Do you have any input into that as a resident? No, you don't. You simply have to take their word for it and give up your home to them. Let's be clear. Whenever a government takes a new power over the civilian population, they never give it back.
All we've had is the promise that, you know, we'll make you safer, having missiles on your roof, having armed police in the corridor, having 10 soldiers, you know, at the top of the water tower 24 hours a day will make you safer. But it doesn't make me feel safer. It makes me feel like that they've made the building I lived in a target. It feels to me that rather than actually secure the Olympics and do their job, they're flexing some muscle. They're using the roof of the building as a shop window to showcase military hardware.
The evidence was given to the court that the Ministry of Defence believed that there was a serious risk of a potential air attack. We can't discount that. There has happened before with 9/11, for example. But London is one of the world's great capitals. To suggest for a moment that London is not already ringed with ground-to-air security to prevent foreign attack would be ludicrous. I wonder at the need for these additional measures within London. Are we really going to shoot down planes over London? Where are they going to land? During the Beijing Olympics, just 4 years ago, they also had ground-to-air systems, but they did not place them on residential homes. They placed them in parks. So if the Chinese are able to develop a substantive air defence system that does not require the militarisation of private homes, surely we here in Britain can do the same.
So it looks like a bit of an eminent domain situation here at Fredwig Tower. Looks like today we're not going to be able to get into the building, but we do know that the 15th floor, the 16th floor, I believe the top floor, the residents have been cleared out.
Yeah, okay.
So I think it might have been a case of the MOD coming in saying, we need your flats and you've got to go. And so they have been cleared out. And also we got some footage earlier of the military setup up on the roof. Again, there's been mentions in other reports that the missiles are actually dummies, that they have blanks up there, which makes sense, because if this was live ammunition on the roof of Fredwig Tower right now, there would be probably military police around the perimeter. It would have to be, the whole area would have to be secured. So, and if it's not secured, then that is a problem if there was live ammunition up on top. So again, no matter how you cut it, this is a catch-22 for the military and the police, because they're not ensuring public safety, or on the other hand, they're just projecting security theater. Okay, so, and based on a threat assessment that they have not allowed the public to know about or see. So the only reason you need surface-to-air missiles is to shoot down a jet. And London is one of the most heavily enveloped and secure cities in the world, with missile defenses in perimeter areas all around the city. So it seems to me a bit over the top and completely unjustified to put military hardware on the roof of a residential block with hundreds of residents living inside.
I'm not the only person to lose my home because of the Olympics. Plenty of people have been forced out because of increased rents, and their stories don't end up on the BBC News. It's not just missiles either. We're getting snipers and helicopters, we're getting sound cannon, we're getting aircraft carriers, we're getting a big military show. You know, Mile End Stadium just up the road is to be handed over which is a really vital sporting amenity for the local community, is to be handed over to the US team for training. So we're going to have armed US troops securing the perimeter of Marlene Stadium in our community. That, to me, is a much bigger scandal than the missiles.
So David Enright, the human rights lawyer at Martin Howe & Co, was right. It's true that the residents of the Fredwig Tower do feel too intimidated to talk to any of the media on camera. We did briefly speak to one of the residents outside the Fredwig Tower who said he wouldn't speak to us because one of the residents there had got into trouble with the police for letting in a journalist the previous day. This is another case of police state whereby we're unable to go into a public residence, we're unable to knock on doors. If this were in Syria or Iran, we would be crying out to the UN that these people were being used as human shields because they had missiles on their residential roofs. This is Daisy Jones with Patrick Henningsen in London for Infowars.com.